Welcome, folks. This is Common Sense Man. I'm your host, Jeff Wiley. We're going to hit on the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, and that's the trial. That's what I kind of want to hit on because, again, as my title states, was he innocent? Is he guilty by mob? And right now it looks like he's guilty by mob. If you've been watching the case, the prosecution doesn't have anything. There's so many videos out right now of that situation. Now let's start by saying this: whether you think he was supposed to be there or not is irrelevant. All the rioters shouldn't have been there. Rioters, not protesters. Rioters shouldn't have been there. Let's also realize another thing about this when it comes to where everybody should have been. So, if we say Kyle Rittenhouse shouldn't have been there, okay, he shouldn't have been there. He wouldn't have been there if the National Guard was called in. He wouldn't have been there if the police were allowed to do their job. Here's a 17-year-old kid who thought, I need to take a gun and protect the city that I'm working in, the city that his father and a lot of his family members live in, and keep it from burning down. Over what? So instead of the adults doing what they were supposed to do, he would have never had to pick up a gun, in my opinion. And again, my opinion, it's pure speculation. Same thing as it goes to he shouldn't have been there in the first place. That's all irrelevant. What's relevant is did he fire the weapon to defend himself? And every single video point of view that's out there, he did. I think what the prosecutor's trying to do is get a mistrial. The defense is trialed a mistrial with prejudice, which means he would not be re-prosecuted. If it's just a normal mistrial, then of course they'll prosecute him again. I've watched almost everything from them they're trying to add a bunch of counts to him because they want to be able to send it's basically like throwing a bunch of spitballs up against the board and see which one sticks. That's what they're doing right now because they don't have anything. They literally took a picture. You can't really see it, and I've been trying to find it. Google's real good about not being able to search much right now when it comes to Rittenhouse's defense. The prosecution, you can find anything if there's anything out there, especially the guy that got shot in the arm. He's changed his story now. He testified on the witness stand under oath that he wasn't chasing him, which in the video, he pulls out his weapon. He's not allowed to have a concealed carry. He wasn't allowed to have a gun to begin with. Again, I believe that people should be able to carry a gun. He wasn't allowed to. And then he chases down the street after him, which he says he didn't chase him down the street. Then why were you running behind him? And Rittenhouse runs by him and tells him, I'm going to the police. And instead of this Gage Groswaite sitting there saying, hey, back off, he's going to the police. That's where the police were, is where he's running to. They assault him. They hit him with a rock or a piece of cinder blocks the first thing. The guy with the skateboard hits him once, picks it up, goes to hit him again. There's a guy they still haven't arrested they call Jump Kick Man that tries to kick him in the face the first couple of shots he fires. He puts one bullet in the one guy's chest with the skateboard, and they can't find the skateboard. The detectives haven't went out and got the skateboard. It's just disappeared. And I would have just bought a skateboard and brought it in that's the same likeness and size and just dropped it on the floor and said, can you imagine getting hit with this? And then the last guy had a gun and he pointed it at him. With his hands up, he didn't fire. He didn't fire until the gun was brought back down. And it's on the video, you can plainly see to re-rack that gun, he has to pull on top, slide the bullet, and you'd see that bullet eject from the top if he was re-racking a round. And no live round was spent. So there wasn't a live round laying on the ground that hadn't been shot. They were all casings. And 9 times out of 10, if it's a misfire, you eject the live round out of the top and insert a new round. Now, it could jam, could fire, could jam, but you can't tell anywhere. And then the prosecution comes up and makes this FBI video that came from nowhere, which the defense wasn't made wary of it at beginning, so the FBI had footage that they weren't making, which again, I think the FBI should be disbanded now. The way they're running things now, there ain't no good cops left. There just aren't any good cops, I think, left in the FBI. I just don't think there are. I think they're just towing the party line right now, and that's not what they're supposed to be. They're not supposed to be a political group or an arm of the Republican, the Libertarian, the Independents, or the Democrats. They're not supposed to be any of those. They're supposed to just go find, see where the facts take you, and then that's the justice. That's why Lady Justice has a blindfold on. It's blind. But they're not going that direction. So anyhow, um, I don't think they ever had a case, and I wouldn't have put him on the stand. But for an 18-year-old kid, he did pretty good. He did way better than I thought he would. And they kept trying to, you killed them. You meant to kill them. No, I shot to stop the threat. But you killed them. And again, he's trying to get him to admit he killed somebody. He didn't want to kill anybody. But if he wouldn't have had that gun that night, if he would have went down there and just tried treating people, he'd probably be dead or beaten half to death. And again, all immaterial whether he should have been there or not. He was. Just like all those people that shouldn't have been down there, how many people have been arrested for burning the city down? And now for the verdict, they're calling in 500 National Guard. Why weren't the 500 National Guard called in before? Oh, that's right, because it didn't fit who was in the White House at the time. And that's all this is about right now. They don't want any burning buildings. They don't want anything going crazy because it's going to look bad on the worst rated president with the worst inflation in 32 years, with the worst economy that he inherited a great economy even during COVID. When we first moved out here to Montana, it was $2 a gallon. It's now $1.35 more a gallon. And don't sit there and say that's not Biden's fault. That's Biden's administration's fault. Period. We can't have lynch mobs. You can't chase after people to hang people because you think they did something wrong. Okay? We don't do that anymore. You follow the evidence. Whether you believe he was supposed to have the gun or not, and you believe he should have been there, is all irrelevant. The one guy shouldn't have chased him. Joseph Rosenbaum should not have chased him. And again, we're not allowed to talk about his criminal background. The defendant, Kyle Rittenhouse's criminal background, has nothing. But yet, two of the guys that were shot and killed, they had criminal backgrounds. Domestic abuse and child rape. But those were good guys. And then the last guy, he wasn't supposed to be having he didn't have a concealed carry permit. And then he said he lost his gun. He lost his gun. He told the police that, several officers that he lost his gun. And then magically it appeared. So he lied to the police at the beginning. Rittenhouse hasn't changed his testimony at all from the time that he was brought into the precinct to where he sat on the stand a couple of days ago, on Wednesday. He's never changed anything. And then this guy goes on Good Morning America and all these other wonderful media sites. No, if you see the wound, I was shot with my hands up. We all seen the video. We all seen the photograph. We seen everything. Your hand was pointed at his head. He pulled the trigger. And he only shot you once because you retreated. Rosenbaum was shot 4 times in less than 3/4 of a second because he never stopped coming at him. Bottom line. That's what happened. And unfortunately now we have, look what's happening to Project Veritas. They are now basically releasing information they're not allowed to release to the New York Times. The FBI raided his house for a diary. A diary supposedly lost or stolen, okay, that James O'Keefe had, was given to him by someone that he never ran a story on. But yet the FBI raided his home and other reporters' homes, took his phone, and the court order told him to stop. Well, then all of a sudden now the New York Times, in less than 24 hours after that, which they wouldn't have known about it, got the information and then went public with it. The FBI is not supposed to leak anything like that. We're living in a police state right now with the guy that's in the White House. Everything that anybody on here has said that Donald Trump would do, that said he was a fascist, he was an autocrat, he was a dictator, this guy sitting in there right now is doing 150 times worse than Donald Trump ever did. Minimum. 2 million border crossings in the first year of his presidency. That's up like 175%. It's some ridiculous amount from the last year that Trump was there. And more coming. $450,000 payments possible to each individual that was separated at the border, that crossed illegally. Now they're not denying it. First he denied it. Then he said they should get it because they were separated from their family. Well, you shouldn't have brought them here. Mexico has a border. You cross their borders, 2 years in their prison. And a Mexico jail ain't nothing like a dang United States jail. And now come to find out when they get there, they're putting them on planes at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and sending them all over the United States. DeSantis has already said if they send any more planes here and I find out about it, I'm sending them to Delaware, to Biden's home state. Look, whether you believe what's happening in the Rittenhouse case, it's already coming out. The judge is racist. The judge is, his ringtone is "God bless the USA," so he's a Trump supporter. He was appointed by a Democrat, but he's a Trump supporter because he has that. Why would you not have that? God bless the USA. Again, so he's a racist because he's going after prosecution. That prosecutor has to be the most arrogant, for another term, both of them, numbnut I've ever seen. He just sits there and says and does what he wants, and when the judge admonishes him, "Can I talk? May I have it?" No, because you're wrong. And you're doing something, violating his Fifth Amendment rights, and then going in front of a judge and doing that. And Don Lemon come out and said, if this is a way of a courtroom is supposed to be run, then we need to change our courtrooms. No, most judges don't react that way because most prosecutors or defense attorneys don't violate the Fifth Amendment rights that he asked when he first got arrested. And this prosecutor tried, and then he said, well, I'm trying to impeach him on the stand. Interesting word there, too, impeach. He's trying to impeach him on his own words. He says, I'm trying to get him to say that he lied. Look, the mob is going to come for this, and I think the judge has the ability. I don't know how a jury can find him guilty of any of these. Maybe malice, firing of a weapon, maybe. But everything else, he is completely he's running away. He's not turning and firing at him. He's running away. He does not fire until he's knocked down. He does not fire at Joseph Rosenbaum until he grabs his gun. And he stands around there, looks at him, then he gets on the phone because he's calling his buddy that brought him up there, and then he tells him, because all of a sudden they start calling, get him, craniuming, which means hit him in the head. And they basically went to attack him. He did exactly what anybody else with a weapon would have done and defend themselves. And they tried to come, why don't you get a handgun? It's smaller. Look, it's all immaterial. That shows you exactly that a long gun can defend you in close combat. Handgun or not. This is just another way, guys. Again, this prosecutor, I think, I've looked at some of his stuff, he don't like guns. He does not. He has no use for guns. So, and I think going the route he's going is the only way he could, but I wouldn't have accepted it. I wouldn't have taken the case. I would have sent it someplace else. There's no way to win this one. And if the jury finds him not guilty, now mind you, there was somebody out there recording the jury coming out. And there's people already on the internet saying, we know who you are. We've got cameras in the room. We know. Okay, so now you're pressuring a jury to come out with a verdict that you want. Not the verdict that should be, but the verdict that you want. It's just insane right now. Things are just, it's just bad. And like I said, with the FBI coming after James O'Keefe's Project Veritas over a diary. We're going to raid someone's home over a diary that he's had over a year and he didn't run the story? We're insane right now. We're living in mass insanity. The only thing that's good about this, I don't know if it's going to help in the end because I don't know how much the country's going to go backwards in the next 3 years, but it's waking people up. There is a saying that's going around saying that you've been red-pilled. It comes from the Matrix. You take the red pill, you leave. You take the blue pill, you stay in. Okay, the red pill means you're waking up. It doesn't necessarily mean you're waking up as a Republican or a conservative or anything. It means you're waking up that the government is not supposed to be controlling your life, period. Okay, you control your life. The government is supposed to be there for a hand up, not a handout. Okay, bottom line. There's too much. The inflation rate is not going to go any lower. It's going to be bad. And when you go to buy a home in the next 3 years, it could go from 1.2 or 2.5%. You could be in the sixes and sevens would be a good rate, because they're going to have to do something. You can't just keep printing money, because then it's worthless. Like right now, you go to the grocery store. Cost for buying groceries right now in less than a year is probably up 30%. That's total for everything that you buy. And for people on a budget, and for them to say, oh, well, we're taxing the people that make $400,000 a year combined, yeah, that, again, I'm telling you, everything that's happening right now, from putting gas in your tank to just buying a soda, from getting bottled water, it's all up. It's got to go somewhere. So the only thing that's positive about this is there are some people now red pilling, waking up to the fact that the government can't fix everything. And they're not supposed to. They're supposed to be there in case of a catastrophe or an emergency or things like that, like COVID when it first started. And once they forcibly locked you down, they should pay you, because they took away your business, your way of making a living. And once the science came out that it doesn't really matter if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, you could still catch it, you can still spread it. You could vaccinate all 320 million Americans, even babies. You're still going to get COVID, because it's a virus, just like the flu, just like a cold. So there should be therapies out there to go against it. But hey, you can't take ivermectin because that's a horse dewormer. Yeah. Guy got a Nobel Peace Prize in 2015 for what it does for humans. And if you take it, okay, it's a parasitic drug. If you take it, it's not going to harm you, because it's had plenty of testing on it. Now they're wanting to test it for newborns to 5 years, 6-month-old babies. So if the baby dies, what's happening? Everything that's happening right now is the government wants more control of your life, period. End of story. If you don't see that, then you're walking down the street with blinders on. The last guy in office, you didn't like him because he talked to you. Well, he was a CEO. He's always been a CEO, and that's how he talks. But he made government get out of the way and let private industry take off. That's exactly how the economy grew. He stopped the regulation and the bull crap that's out there now and let the economy take off. And anybody sits up there and says, we need to go to wind and solar, look at China's solar farms. They completely blanket a mountain. How is that not creating a carbon footprint or not heating something up? Go to nuclear if you're going to do that. And stop wearing your clothing or buying your purses or getting your shoes or using a pin. Any of that stuff's got a petroleum product in it. When you go buy stuff to wash your clothes, guess what that box is made of or that tub's made out of? Oh, petroleum products. So the only good thing, like I said, is there's red pills. And people are starting to wake up that government isn't the answer. It's not. And hopefully within 3 years, we're not so bound. Because during the 70s under Jimmy Carter, like I said, my parents were Kennedy Democrats until Jimmy Carter came along, and then they were Reagan Republicans afterwards, and they were Republicans that point on since. So anyhow, that's my little rant. They're going to do closing statements tomorrow on the Rittenhouse case. That'll be interesting. I've been watching since pretty much the beginning of it. The prosecution doesn't have a leg to stand on. There hasn't been. All their witnesses have basically testified to exactly what Rittenhouse has said and what the defense has said. So that's just where we are. That's just how it is. That's where it's not going to be any different. So if the jury comes back and finds him guilty, maybe the judge will stand up and say, you know what, I don't know what you've seen, because there is no way, without a reasonable doubt, that he did not just defend himself. So it'll be interesting. I'll post another video soon. Like, subscribe, and share for me. I'd appreciate it. You guys take care, and we'll talk to you soon.